Welcome to the Coop Tank. I'm your host, Steve Cooper, coming to you from SuiteRecording in beautiful Mount Laurel, New Jersey. And I'm here with my producer, Joe Gangemi. I got to tell you, Joe, last weekend I was watching the Premier League soccer, and then I cracked myself a Boddington's, and I really enjoyed it, and I like the Cascade. What's one of your beers you like to drink if you're watching a sporting event?
Wow, good question. I would probably say lately it's been Tonewood Fuego. It's a golden hazy IPA, really good. It never fails. And Tonewood has a great brewery in Barrington, New Jersey, so check them out.
Well, one of my guests today is going to change your mind about what you drink, but we'll talk about that later. And tell us a little about SuiteRecording. Tell us why this studio is so great.
Absolutely. At SuiteRecording, we help brands and businesses to leverage the power of podcasting and YouTube and video content to reach their audience in a fun and unique way. So we can help you with everything from planning your content through to recording, production, and even publication. So if you're interested in learning more, you can contact us anytime at hello@suiterecording.com or visit us on the web at suiterecording.com. That's SUITE. Take it away, Coop.
Okay, this place is great, so check it out. We have a great show today. We have three people who really help people, and I'll explain that later. But my first guest from the Stress Less Company, it's Carlee Myers. How you doing, Carlee?
Good, good. Thanks for having me.
And then from Death of the Fox Brewing Company and High Ground Coffee Roasters, it's Chuck Garrity. How you doing, Chuck?
I'm great. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing awesome. And from the Food Bank of South Jersey, it's Fred Wasiak. What's up, Fred?
Oh man, it's Friday. I was gonna say it's Monday. I'm already thinking ahead, but it's Friday and looking forward to a great weekend.
All right. So, Carlee, tell me a little about your company, what you do.
Yeah. So, like you said, I own the Stress Less Company. And what I do is I help people reduce their stress and enhance their relationships using methodologies like the Stress Less method and safe conversations.
Okay. How about you, Chuck? Tell us about your two establishments.
Death of the Fox Brewing Company, founded in 2017. So we will be celebrating 7 years in the business, 7 exciting years. And last year, we launched High Grounds Coffee Roasters. That's right in the heart of Glassboro, right in the heart, right next to Rowan Boulevard. So that is that's basically not a brewery. It's a coffee roastery, but both our locations roast coffee. Death of the Fox does beer, and High Grounds does not, but High Grounds does food and that type of thing as well.
Okay. And Fred, tell us about the Food Bank.
Yes. I'm with the Food Bank of South Jersey, and we serve Burlington, Camden, Gloucester, and Salem counties. We distribute food, nutrition education classes to over 200 pantries in 58 communities within those 4 counties. And unfortunately, we are busier than we should be. But it's a great organization and a great mission. So it's a good place to be.
Well, it's funny. I was saying the panel today, everyone alleviates stress. Like people have food stress, so you help them. Carlee, you have, people have stress deal with you. And Chuck, beer and coffee always alleviates stress. So it's good. So I want to start with you, Chuck. How did you end up owning a brewery and a coffee roaster? Because I know I talked to you briefly, but tell me your background, because I know you come from the corporate world.
I do, yeah. So I actually spent over 20 years in healthcare. So I started at Children's Hospital, Philadelphia. I worked for Drexel College of Medicine, where I was director of their clinical financial applications. And then I spent about 15 years in management consulting, working for a company out of Boston, Beacon Partners, which was eventually bought by KPMG. I then went to Pricewaterhouse, PwC. I was there and had my fill of the corporate world, let's put it that way. Learned a lot, did very well, but had a passion for home brewing, had been home brewing, on my weekends when I wasn't traveling, came back and, just talk about stress relief. It was just really enjoyed the process, learning, developing my beers. And I had a lot of people tell me, wow, like your beer is better than what I could buy, when I buy in the liquor store or whatever. When you have people fill in your head of that kind of thing and, you have an entrepreneurial spirit, you tend to start making plans. And so that's what happened. And essentially, I took a big risk in 2016, 2017. I left that entire world behind me. I knew if I was going to do it, I was going to do it 100%. I wasn't going to part-time it. It was a pretty innovative business model when, especially, it's still kind of, but I mean, nothing had ever been done like, bringing coffee and beer. You think that, oh yeah, they kind of go together in terms of like beverages, beverage snobs, that type of thing, that, people were into that. I had an opportunity to travel, all throughout the country, and I saw this kind of emerging model, this hybrid business concept that I really felt I could bring to this area and do it well. Also, the idea of a 7-day a week AM PM business, right? So coffee, but it's never that clear cut, right? Originally my concept was coffee in the AM, and then we opened the beer taps, and then full on brewery and that type of atmosphere in the PM. The fact of the matter is we have over 40% of our coffee sales happen after 2:00 in the afternoon. And the beer side, we open up the taps around noon, but it's a great option for people to come who maybe she's a beer drinker, he's not, or just a something that really kind of widens the scope of what a brewery can be. So it's been a quite a fun ride, especially through the pandemic and all that fun stuff. But I think we're in a very strong position now. We kind of know who we are and what we do, and the coffee side especially has been growing exponentially over the last couple of years. So we're really thrilled about that.
That's awesome, man. It's a good story. And Fred, how did you end up at the food bank?
Really, divine intervention. And, I spent I was an educator, coach early on after college. Then I found my way 27 years in the YMCA work, retired from the YMCA. And I like what Chuck said, because, after the Y, I wasn't really, I was retired from the Y, but what do I do now? And so I started a consulting company, Humanix Consulting, which I still own and operate when I have time. And I built it up. It was going into my 6th year, and someone reached out to me from the food bank. And my consulting was, the YMCA was a great training ground. And so I really like working with boards, not boards, but I have a great board at the food bank at this time. But it was nonprofit consulting, staff development, board development, strategic planning, and so on. And someone reached out to me from the food bank and said, look, the CEO has retired and they're looking for someone. And 4 asks later, I finally applied, and it was the best thing I ever did. I've been there almost 6 years. And, when I say divine intervention, I'm a person of faith. And I just said, if this is what I'm supposed to do, if this is my next assignment, I need a sign. Show me a sign. And sure enough, the sign I asked for was a feather. And the job was offered to me, and I'm on my front porch, and I've been keeping a journal for 30 years, and I was writing in a journal. In 13 minutes, a feather floated down, and I still have it. It's over here in my counter. It just floated down in front of me, right outside the porch. Now, I've been sitting in that porch for years, and never a feather. No bird was flying by, and I said, "Oh man." I called my wife, and I said, "Look, I think I'm going to be a food banker." And she goes, "Did you see the feather?" I said, "Yeah." And it was the best decision I made. And those risks, you have to take risks. And letting go of the consulting company, but everything I've done in the past, I've realized it prepares me for the next thing. And it's been an incredible ride, incredible staff and board, and doing great work. So it's a fun place to be.
That's awesome. Awesome. Now, Carlee, tell me about your path to stress less.
Yeah. Well, my path is a bit of a can of worms, but I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. Is that I ended up starting the Stress Less company because of an experience I had when I was about 12 years old. An experience of trauma, actually. And I do want to give a trigger warning for those who are listening. But a man was actually murdered in my home, and my mom was shot 3 times. And while my mom ended up making a miraculous recovery, I really struggled for a long time with the symptoms of stress, nightmares, jumpiness, anxiety, you name it. I was probably struggling with it. And I didn't tell anyone for a long time that I was struggling. I kind of kept it to myself, didn't want to be a burden or the straw that broke the camel's back. But when I finally opened up with folks in my world and said, hey, I'm having a hard time here, it was like clockwork. I got the same 5 or so responses every time. Hey, have you tried therapy? Have you tried yoga, meditation, changing your diet, hitting the gym? And from my perspective, I had tried all of those things, and my internal dialogue, at least, luckily I had some manners at the time, but my internal dialogue was, no shit, Sherlock. Of course I've tried those things. But yeah, luckily I wasn't willing to accept that as my, new low grade kind of misery, and kept exploring and finally found some things that worked for me. I got a tool belt of some traditional things, but also some non-traditional things that really helped create that inner freedom I was looking for. And yeah, I ended up creating the stress less method as a result, which is sort of like the guide rails, gives people some structure to find that inner freedom, but not necessarily box them in. And another key component of my business is the connection to relationships. They either help or they hinder our growth. I learned that on my journey in opening up, or attempting to open up to some people in my life. And on some ends I was received, and on others I wasn't. And so I added that component into my business as well, learning and teaching people how to have safe conversations. Conversations where we can learn how to talk without criticism, how to listen without judgment, and how to connect beyond difference, especially when we're going through challenging times.
Okay. Well, it's funny talking to all of you. You all have a passion for what you do, and that's what I love. I love passion in people. You get some people you talk to, and they're like, you see a banker works for like 27 different banks in like 4 years. You're like, where are you with this one? And there's no passion. But saying that, and we're going to start with you, Fred. It's obvious you have passion about what you do, but what do you love about what you do? Not what you like, but there's got to be something you love about what you do. And what is it that you love about what you do, Fred?
Yeah, it's a couple of things. The main thing is just the reward, knowing that you help someone in this particular day or this particular week. Healthy food, nutrition, if that can have a child have a better day, or an adult or a family get through a tough time, that you're reaching their whole spirit, heart, mind, and body. Because food, healthy, nutritious food, relates to all of that. And just the trauma that some families are going to, and all the stresses in their life, and not to have to worry about what's on the plate for a short time until they can get over a hump. That is a rewarding part that just brings out the passion. But as Carlee said, the relationships that are very important. And a thing that I've brought, which we've brought to the food bank, is a mindfulness practice. And how do we raise the bar with the mindfulness practice? And the bar is belonging, achievement, relationships. We can't achieve much without having that sense of belonging. And but that belonging is created around trust in relationships. And when you have people that you can, look forward to go to work every day with a group of passionate people, that's what I love. And we can exude that out to the community and bring hope. There's something really powerful about that.
Okay. What do you love about what you do, Carlee?
Gosh, I was thinking as Fred was talking about how I love the connections that I have in my business, whether it's with a client, whether it's networking, whether it's in a situation like this. But I also, as Fred was talking, I was thinking about how I love how the work that I do has so many applications. And there's a part of me that really likes the challenge and the intellectual stimulation of it a bit. That's my own ego, my own stuff. But Knowing that safe conversation specifically can be applied in so many contexts, and even, for instance, like the food bank, listening, being able to hold safe space for someone who's going through a hard time. I love that not only the difference that makes in so many people's lives, mine included, in my own relationships, but also the possibility of the impact that it could have. It's something like, there's something that's always pulling me forward. Like, my mission is a magnet.
Okay.
And
How
I
about
really
you,
like
Chuck?
that.
What do you love about what you're doing now? Because you came from a long background of corporate, so there's got to be something you love about it.
I absolutely love the fact that we are nestled in our community, that there are so many things that we do that involve community partnerships, that involve at the local level, at the municipal level, at the county level. And to your question, I mean, I spent the majority of my career traveling to other parts of the country, right? So, I was but I lived here in South Jersey, but I was never in South Jersey. I was always, even when I was working in Philly, you know what I mean? I was going across the bridge, working in, so, yes, I lived in the community, but I was not involved in my community. I was not necessarily invested in my community. And honestly, I didn't even realize it at the point, because I was, climbing up that corporate ladder and just kind of focusing on, and which there's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, I look at it and I say, well, that opportunity allowed me to do what I'm doing now. And I remind myself of that. Because it was that experience and the ability to grow those companies and eventually sell those companies that allowed me to have the ability to launch that to the Fox. But I mean, if you would have asked me 10 years ago what a local chamber of commerce does, I would have been like, what is it? They just kind of get together and they pass business cards around. I might have been that might have been my answer. Now I'm chair of the board of the Gloucester County Chamber of Commerce. And as a brewery, it's just kind of like, to be able to do that is really rewarding, because it allows me to connect with so many other facets of businesses and different industries. I mean, I tell people, when you want to get involved, it's amazing to me that, the majority, over 90% of businesses in this county are not, they're kind of, focused on themselves, and understanding why they are, because, they're focused on being successful and being profitable and all of that. And I totally get it, but most of them are not involved in things like chamber, like in their community whatsoever. And the cross pollination that happens between, you would ask me, like, well, what does banking or accounting or HR or technology services or environmental services, what does that have to do with what I do? Everything. I mean, it allowed us to be able to build the second location. I used, most of the companies that I used to create High Grounds in Glassboro were local companies. And that's really important to me. Most of my business partners are local. So I wasn't even aware of that, and it's just so rewarding. I drove my bike to work today. I mean, how lucky am I to be able to do that versus, getting on a plane at 4:00 in the morning, to sit in a line for 2 hours, to fly, to the West Coast and be absolutely exhausted by, the time you get back on Friday, after a week of travel. It's amazing to me. I look at it. Yes, I mean, owning a small business is a lot of work, and you put in a lot of hours. But I have that basis of comparison to be able to say, well, at least I have the ability to to do certain things that are within my power versus working for a large corporation, and you just you kind of it's a lot of those things are kind of out of your hands. And even when you reach a partner at a firm, at a big four firm, still, you have thousands of other partners. And I have one, silent partner. But I really love the ability to be able to do what I want to do, and to be able to be so involved and nestled in our community. So it's amazing. I just teach myself every day.
So you all love what you do. Now, saying that, and we'll start with you, Chuck. You love what you do. What motivates you? What keeps you going? What's your motivating factor these days? Because you love what you do, but you don't want to lose that spark. It's like anything. I come to interviews sometimes. I'm like, I hope the guests are good because I'm feeling a little off. But I get motivated because I go, well, I have to deliver a good show because it's my name on it. Okay, it's not the Carlee Tank, or it's not the Coop Chuck, whatever. It's the Coop Tank. But so we'll start with you, Chuck. What motivates you?
I love the creativity that I'm able to just the ability to, for example, like take a beer product or a coffee product or any other thing, and basically bring it from an idea that's in your head. And you can talk about the business overall as well. It all started as a strategic plan on a piece of paper, and to be able to bring those types of creative thoughts and things like that, to be able to say, okay, well, let's do it. I mean, I have a beer on tap that's made of Fruity Pebbles cereal. I mean, and it's just like, it's bizarre, right? I mean, it's just like, but you know what? It's just, people love it. And to be able to see the looks on their faces when they're like, oh my goodness, it's like drinking the cereal milk. And it's just, like
Oh my
that just that kind of thing is just so much fun. It really the ability to, the other example that I'll use is, for the first 3 years of our business, we outsourced our coffee operation to a local roaster, which was great, you know what I mean? And it worked well for us. But, we took the opportunity during the pandemic because we were closed down for 9 months. Our tasting room was closed. We were like, I was delivering beers to people's houses every day. But we had the ability, because we didn't have customers, to build out our coffee roastery, to start roasting the coffee ourselves. And that really transformed our business. I mean, I cannot emphasize it enough. It really, and of course, at heart, we are a brewery, but I tell people, we're not like a brewery that serves coffee. We're not a coffee house that serves beer. We are truly both. We are a true 50-50 hybrid business. Probably a little more on the coffee side because of the second location, but that second location is also a roastery. So we're able to do like really creative roasts, and I'm constantly learning as well. And I guess the other thing is that, there's always, it's just like, to use the expression that it's probably tired, but it truly is like peeling the onion every day. I learn something more about what I do. It is just a bottomless, sometimes it's a pit, sometimes it's an unlimited sky with no clouds, but it is truly, there's always something more to learn. And this industry is constantly changing. I mean, look at the liquor store shelves, look at what is available, versus, 10, 15 years ago. It is just, it is, and you know what? It's happening again. I mean, now, there's this concept of THC seltzers, which, we're kind of fighting at the industry level to say, okay, well, is that something, but that's something it's a major market disruptor that I need to be aware of right now, because it's going to be a core competition of my business. So what do we do about that? I mean, there's just a lot of, and that's the fun thing. And it just to be able to be creative and innovative and do crazy fun stuff. So
you should make a blueberry brew. If you have the fruit peppers, how about a blueberry brew or a Count Chocula porter?
We've done a Count Chocula.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
there you go.
And we have a blueberry Kolsch. But
okay, all right.
And we've done a Captain Crunch and a Crunch Berry. And
damn! Oh God, that's like
We've got about 8 cereal beers.
He's endorsing morning drinking, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. I love drinking in the day, not before on the weekend. Carlee, what motivates you? What motivates you to keep going?
Well, first of all, I need to acknowledge that I was a nighttime cereal eater for a very long time. So just throwing that out there. I know there's a lot of other people out in the world that don't eat cereal for breakfast. But you know what? What's interesting is I always differentiate between motivation and inspiration. Motivation coming from outside of me and inspiration coming from within me. So motivation from the perspective of something that's coming outside of myself, it is the connections, it is the relationships, it's the stories, it's the person that's saying, whoa, I had no idea that I was creating this outcome because I was doing X, Y, and Z, that this impacted that, right? Like the ahas, the epiphanies, that the deep relationships, that's definitely a huge motivating factor for me. In terms of inspiration, though, in terms of the something that comes within me, I have no idea. I might say, like, it must be divine intervention, to use Fred's words, because there's something so magnetic about my business and my mission that I have tried to put it down. There have been times, especially like a couple years into the pandemic, where I was like, you know what, maybe it would be easier if I just put my business down, and I haven't been able to. And so there's something magnetic that I can't explain, but it keeps me moving, it keeps me going. And perhaps it's a sense of purpose. I don't know. But yeah, that's my answer.
What motivates you, Fred?
Wow, I talk about inspired. What Carlee and Chuck are saying. It's I don't feel it's much different. You know, no one goes to school to be a food banker. You know, we have all walks of life and talents and skills. I still don't know what some of those. I don't know what any of those numbers and barcodes are in our 40,000 foot warehouse. But there's people that do. And I think, you know, my consulting company, you know, working in the YMCA, can relate to what Carlee just said. Fortunately, when the board hired me 6 years ago, they didn't want me to let go of my consulting company. Again, something I built, and I love when they have holiday parties. It was me, myself, and I, and it was great. My wife's an educator, and I'd invite her, you know, after school, you want to come to the party, and you know, she'd come home, and I'm still in my pajamas from the morning, and you know, she just roll her eyes, but she's my #1 supporter. So to get to your question is building capacity in people. And I have been blessed with people, in the cliche. It is true. You know, you're only as good as the people around you. I have such wonderful, passionate, smarter people that I am surrounded with, that I am learning something every day, to what Chuck said. And that motivation going into that environment of a nonprofit organization and learning something every day. When if a company comes in for a tour, I'll jump in with our chief operating officer, who has a wealth of background in the food industry and warehousing, logistics. I go on a tour every time because I learned something new, and it's been 6 years and I'm still learning something new. But if I can bring the resources in to build capacity and develop our staff, our board, then that capacity ripples out to meeting the needs of the community. And that is motivating. That is motivating.
Okay. Now, you know, if you go on social media, LinkedIn and stuff like that, it's obvious, you know, people will tell you how great they are. You can't get away from it. People will tell you how great they are. And if they don't, they do a humble brag. So you tell them how great they are. It's that thing. You know, people never want to admit they have a weakness or something they can do better. Like me, I have to work on it. My wife always says, I'm spiteful. I'm a spiteful person. I mean, it's awful. I mean, if I won the lottery, the kid who picked me when I was little, I would buy his house and throw him out. That's how spiteful I am. But I'm working on it. I wouldn't do that, actually, but I might. But I'm working on it. It's something I need to do better. I have to work on my spite. Carlee, what is there something that you can do better, that you need to do better about yourself, that you've noticed that and you're working on it, or you have pushed it away, but you know you have to work on it?
Oh my gosh. So this is a conversation I have with potential clients and clients all the time. So I have something called the stress less method. It's 3 steps. First step, disengage from stress. Second step, identify your blocks. And third step, transform your relationship with the blocks. So the second step is to identify your blocks. I always share my number one block. One of the ways that I continually, accidentally, subconsciously self-sabotage is being hypervigilant. Because of my experience of trauma, because of my upbringing, the way that I moved through the world and the hard lessons that I learned, one of my automatic coping mechanisms is to always look for where the other shoe is going to drop. And so I have to be, for myself, really aware of that kind of hard wiring because of my early life experiences, and really make sure that I'm also looking where things are, let's say where I got a brand new pair of Nikes, right? Where things are going really good as well. So yeah, my weakness usually is where's the other shoe going to drop, and trying to anticipate where things are going to go wrong. And been actively working on transforming that relationship so I can say, hey, I've got a brand new pair of Nikes. Life is actually pretty good.
Okay. How about you, Fred? What can you do better? What do you got to work on?
Oh boy, that's a great question. And I was attempting to be present while Carlee was speaking and thinking about all the things. It's staying true to disciplined things that I need to do. For example, routines. I read a great book, 5 a.m. Club or Make Your Bed. You start with these little routines, these little wins, these little successes, and they make big. So you continue that. I love the mornings, and I just got to get myself, if I can start my day better in a routine, then the flow will go better throughout the day. And so I just got to get more disciplined in my morning routine, which will help my day go more smoothly. And that routine can be, the variety of things, whether it's staying to the journaling, making sure my coffee is hot while I'm watching the bird feeder. But the routine has to be consistent, and it hasn't been. So that's one of the things. Practice what I preach.
Okay. It's funny. I make the bed every morning, and this is no lie. My wife has OCD, and she always comes home and remakes it. And I go, why am I even making it? I go, and I go, why are you doing it? And she goes, because you don't do it right. I do it better. So I'm at the point where I should not make it. But then I feel bad because I want to get that done, even though I know it's a futile gesture because she's going to come back and remake it. And I'm like, it looks the same to me, but I don't know. So.
Well, but it's that habit, right? So, the neural pathway is just staying with that habit, and it creates that neural pathway, which excels other areas of your life.
Exactly. Chuck, what can you do better?
Wow. Yeah, that's so many things. I mean, it's you have especially as a small business owner and an entrepreneur, and it's like, it's that feeling of needing control all the time, and to be able to kind of step back from that, the stress that involves, it, especially for for smaller businesses. I think that, I tell people, I speak on entrepreneurship, and it's so many times business owners, I don't want to say get in their own way, but they tend to want to try to control everything and not let go. And even when their business is starting to grow and they're starting to and basically, you can be the biggest limitation to your own business. And I lived that, right? Like, I wanted to do everything. I was working, this thing was, it had to succeed because I risked everything in order to do it. So I learned a lot of lessons in my first year. And, I wanted to control every aspect of the business. I found myself working, 80 to 100 hours a week. I was here AM. I mean, literally, we're open 7 days a week. We open, 7 a.m. in Glassboro, 8 a.m. in Clarksboro. And we go to 9, 10 o'clock at night. So you have that, right? And then you have just all the things that need to be done. And, oh, totally, I felt so much pressure to, to have this launch successfully that, I wound up trying to do too much. It was just, you're not, especially when you are trying to, spin 20 plates, those plates are going to start crashing. You know what I mean? And I experienced that, and learned those lessons, because I think that, you really have, and I leaned on my, my management experience, my MBA. I was just like, this is classic organizational, the lack I need as, founder and president. I need to focus on strategy, and I need to, focus on planning and looking at trends and looking at things. I can't be involved in the weeds every day and everything that I'm doing just to, try to control costs or try to, feel like just I'm the best one to do it. So I've had to delegate almost everything that I do. Everything from, the little things like scheduling, payroll, accounting. I was for the first year or two, I was doing my own accounting. I didn't have a bookkeeper. Just in addition to creating the product, actually brewing, 2 to 3 days a week. That all had a cost. It had a personal cost, a deep personal cost for me. Without getting into it, it was just, and I look at it now and I see that, yeah, I mean, there was reasons why. I mean, I wasn't home. I was literally working all the time, and that caused a lot of stress at home. And, and I think that a lot of, people who are either business owners, entrepreneurs have that challenge. And it's all about letting go, right? You have to hire good people. You have to bring talented people in who believe in your philosophy, who kind of, and you need to allow them to succeed and delegate. And, it was just, I reached that point where I was about a year and a half into the business where I had a decision to make, and I realized that I was potentially the biggest barrier to my own success. And so, I brought on a lot of, talented people, and now now we have almost 30 people working for the organization. I have my general manager, she takes care of a lot of things that I used to do. I use business partners to be able to, even the brewing itself. I mean, I've hired several brewers and bringing in people to, that's one thing that's really hard for me to let go of is that core component of it. So I'm still, involved in it. And, but it really is, that is, and there are things that you're just not good at. Like for me, I'm like a big picture guy, but ask me to organize a closet or organize my office, and I'm just like, think there are piles all over. There's things like that. I know where it is. You know what I mean? I have my own system, but from the outside, you look at it and it's just like, so I need people to help me out with that.
Okay.
So, and now I do, right? And they actually do it better than I could. So I think as a business owner, you need to like look at yourself in the mirror and say, it is a really tough conversation to have with yourself, to be able to say, okay, you know what? I'm not perfect. I can't do everything. And if I tried to do everything, I'm going to wind up, out of business, divorced with, and just kind of, you have to just be able to let go, delegate. And I've learned that lesson. And, I still find myself, or have to remind myself every day, like, do I really need to do this?
Okay, well, see, that's so at least you're noticing that. Here's a question I always like to ask people. You've all had good careers, have good careers, not had, have. When you look back on your life, and we're going to start with you, Fred. Who's someone who's played an important role in developing who you are in your professional life or in your social life? I mean, is there something like I've had a teacher back in the day, Dr. Dwyer, who encouraged me to write comedy. You know, a paper I wrote How to Give a Wedgie, and he didn't look at it like I was crazy. He gave me an A because he said it was creative, it was different, and that meant a lot. And I've worked with comics. I've met people that have played a role in my life, in my self development. Who's someone, Fred, that you remember that has played an important role in who you are?
Yes, easily comes to mind is my first executive director supervisor in the YMCA, and it was at the White Plains YMCA. At the time, I was living in Michigan. We just had a baby girl, 1988, and I flew to White Plains, New York from Michigan, and my executive director, his name was Fred Toot. Toot. And when he first talked to me on the phone, I thought he said, like, I'm Fred also, like, you know, but really it's Toot. So I've had fun with that. And I worked there for 5 years, and he was the most impactful mentor, supervisor. And, you know, I left, I moved on to another YMCA after that, but our relationship stayed long and deep and philosophical through things, and until he passed 2 summers ago. But the two things that I remember the most, and I share this, and I've shared it since 1990. I left there in 93, from 88 to 93. And I've used these two statements he's had. Tried to live by them, and I share them in the leadership role. And, you know, you can love someone, but he always said to me, he goes, Fred, I may love you, but someday I may have to ask you for your keys. Meaning that, look, I care for you, but this just isn't working out. The other thing that really holds true is, you know, if you can't change the people, you change the people. And if you can get to the core of that statement, what does that mean? That means that if you have someone you believe in, but you coach them, you supervise them, you hold them accountable, and they just still aren't getting it, then you have to change them. You have to move on and have them move on, and they may have a better life and better experience than what they're trying to do. And he also had a great sense of humor, great family values, and just a man of integrity. And so I was blessed to have him hire me, and he told me the reason why he hired me because he spoke to my wife as part of a phone call interview, and he liked the socks I wore at the interview. And I don't even remember the socks, but so those are the 4 or 5 things that Fred Toot has. I've stuck with that, and so he's forever there.
Okay. How about you, Chuck? Who's someone who's made an impact on you?
You know, I'll say that it was one of my best friends. Okay. So, you know, somebody way before I even started my career, you know, a buddy through high school and through college. You know, his name is Chris, and he had such an impact on me, I guess primarily through my music taste. Okay. So I was like this like classic rock. I was always into music. I played a little bit. But he very creative guy, and like kind of came from this, you know, more indie alternative side of the world, and seeing things and you know, just kind of opened up a completely new world to me, right? Like way of seeing things that is just incredibly, like, you know, and it really had an impact on, you know, my perspective, or my you know, my taste, not only in music but beyond it. You know what I mean? My personality. Suddenly, it was like, you know, I kind of found my people. You know, through that music scene that I was eventually involved in Philly. And, you know, he also, when we were in college, was brewing beer. And I just couldn't even, so that was like when I was first exposed to home brewing, was in college. Now, you know, the beer it had big chunks of yeast in it. It was absolutely disgusting, but we made it. So I was just like, wow, this is great. You can actually make your own, you know, I didn't care, but it was terrible. But, you know, and then eventually, we started homebrewing together, 10, 15 years later. So, Chris had an enormous impact in terms of, just my personality, worldview, deeply creative, and in terms of understanding branding and marketing and all of this kind of stuff, which is what he does for a living. Really kind of helped my mindset and helped me prioritize when I was creating the company. So, and also happens to be one of my best friends.
Okay.
So,
That's
yeah.
cool. That's good.
Yeah.
How about you, Carlee? Who's someone who has played an important role for you?
Yeah, I think my story will be a little bit simpler, but a college professor of mine, Mo Brooker, who's since passed, he was my painting teacher. And if you know anything about me, I pursued a degree in the arts. I have a big passion for the arts. And yeah, one year during final critiques, I was getting everything ready, all my artwork up and ready. And he dropped this. He's the kind of guy that he's like poised, very relaxed, very chill, but poised. He's almost like relaxed jazz. Like that's his vibe. um, and yeah, he looked at my artwork and he looked at me and he said something along the lines, I don't remember the exact words, but one day you will be a great artist. And he said it with such conviction that it still sticks to me to this day. And it's that belief that sticks with me, that whatever it is that I want to do, even if it's a career in the arts, which many say is impossible, almost impossible, let's say, that sticks with me, that no matter what I do, no matter what I put my head to, it's all, I'm an art nerd, so everything feels like art to me. Everything's a creative pursuit. Whatever art I make, whether it's the Stress Less Company or a garden or anything else, I have the capacity to do it great. And those words of affirmation went a long way for me.
Okay. We're going to stay with you for this question, Carlee. How do you define success? What is success to you at this point in your life?
Success to me is a sense of inner freedom. No matter where I'm plopped, if you will, no matter where I'm dropped, a sense that all is well or all will be well.
Okay.
That's
How about you,
success.
Chuck? What's success to you?
I feel that it's at one point I would have told you, financial, being rich or some crazy thing like that, when I was climbing the corporate ladder. Now I will say that it's being able to enjoy it every single day and have gratitude for everything, including, in your family, your personal life, what you do for a living, the things that provide you with, that long-term satisfaction, that create these gifts that we're all able to just truly realize how lucky we are to live this life, and again, sometimes you take, it's a hard road to learn those lessons, right? We get caught up in our own ego. We get caught up in different things where, selfishness and all of that. I find that true success is when it's shared with the people that you love. And, I just have so much gratitude for that every day.
Okay. How about you, Fred? What's success to you?
It's the legacy of our three children that are just upstanding adults, wonderful careers, hardworking, and happy in their lives, and that's success right now.
Okay, well, that's good. You all had good answers. Now, we all met each other through different ways of networking and stuff like that. And in these days, I mean, especially after the pandemic, You really, if you network well, you never really have to cold call. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's people here. It's such a connection now, and it's changed because there's so many groups. Like I run a group, and then Tyler does his group at Chuck's, which gets a huge turnout. And there's all these. I went to an event, all these different events popping up. So it's really, and you go out and you network a lot, and I love networking. And there's some things that bother me. But that's like anything. But I try to be a good networker because I think I listen to people and I actually care. I do want to connect people. So that being said, Fred, what makes you a good networker? And if you don't think you're a good networker, say, I don't think I'm a good networker. That's okay. But what makes you a good networker, Fred?
It's just mindfully being present. And, Dale Carnegie said a long time ago that if you're in the presence of someone, the sweetest thing they love to hear, people love to hear, is their name. And so through being present in the present of another is a present. It's a gift. And when you are truly present, you can fully hear not just what they're saying, but what they're telling you in their whole spirit, mind, body, and heart. You can be in tune with that. And when you're when you're in tune with that, there's that, the oxytocin, the dopamine, all of those connector neurotransmitters. Really, people feel you're authentic, which you are and you should be. That's and having that clarity and practicing to be present, practicing to be mindful, it helps you then, and that's just a natural way of connecting with people. It's just being present.
Okay. How about you, Carlee? What makes you a good networker?
Yeah. I really like to network. I think there's two things that make me a really good networker. The first thing is that I really enjoy the challenge of making connections for someone. So I like to ask the questions like, well, gosh, the straightforward question, how can I help you? So I can start to like brainstorm and figure out what connections are going to be the best for that person, but also for the people in my network. So that's one thing. And the second part is the flip side of the coin, which is that I also still am able to keep my eye on the prize. So what is it that I need to be able to grow my business? So one of the ways that I love to serve, but also supports the growth of my business, is speaking. So I'm always keeping my eye on that prize by asking folks, okay, who do you know who has a stage that would benefit from having me speak on, nurturing healthy relationships in your business or otherwise.
Okay. How about you, Chuck? What makes you a good networker?
Well, I'm still working on it, even though I do a lot of networking and I host a lot of networking events. It's still a work in progress. Fred mentioned something about, that I think that, sometimes especially when you're in a situation, you're meeting new people, you tend to always be thinking about what you're going to say, that voice in your head, that like when somebody's speaking to you, you're kind of preparing, instead of really listening to them, you're preparing what you're going to say, right? Like, and I think that's a real challenge, right? To be able to like stop that inner voice in your head, truly listen to somebody, and then perhaps, and especially as we get older, I turned 50 recently, and it's just like, as we get older, I found that, one benefit, there are a lot of things that are really tough about getting old, but one of the true gems is that you have more life experience where you can relate to what somebody's telling you and understand and be able to, kind of provide them with your insight and perhaps an example of something that happened to you that can relate to what where they are. Maybe it's the type of company that they work for. Maybe it's a story about what they did yesterday during a challenging sale, or whatever it is, where you're able to go, okay, well, you know what, understand what they're telling you and really listen. One thing I really have to work on still is remembering people's names. Oh my goodness. Like, I go to these events, thank goodness for name tags, because when you don't have them, I'm like, and it's really challenging because we have people in and out, like hundreds of people coming through our business every day. I see people and I'm like, what's their name? So that's an area where I feel like I'm still very much a work in progress. I try to different methods to do it. And Fred, you mentioned that to me is a skill. My general manager, it's unbelievable. She remembers everybody's name. I wish I had that skill. Like somebody, and not only their name, but what they drink. Like, oh, you have a double shot latte with skim milk and
What's her name?
Malted caramel. I'm like, wow.
But just for the name, though, just make sure you never call anyone Scooter. No one wants to be called Scooter. That's just a little thing. If anyone says, what's your name? So, okay, this next question, and I'm going to start with you, Fred, because you brought it up earlier. You jumped the gun on one of my questions. I always like to get a good book that people read about business. But if you don't read business books, like I don't read business books, so I don't. The only one I've read was Malcolm Gladwell, The Tipping Point. They just don't interest me. But you can't use the 5 a.m. Club or Make Your Bed. You can't use them, Fred, because you already mentioned them. And you're not allowed. What's a book that has made an imprint on you that you sit there and go, oh, and you would suggest to someone? And it could be a personal growth book. It could be a business book. Hell, it could be a joke book. I don't care. But what's a book that you would suggest?
The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That was brought to me, and I think the first edition came out. It's on his 30th anniversary, 95 or 96. I just presented it to our whole staff group. The 7 pillars in there are forever, and I have read it 3 or 4 times. I've listened to it on cassette tapes way back in the day. Then it went to CDs. And it's just a great book that has really changed, enhanced my life in the direction of effectiveness through these wonderful habits. And my most favorite one is Sharpen the Saw. And so how do you continue to learn? How do you continue to take time for yourself, self-care? And then when you can do that, you're sharpening your saw all the time. Then you can be better in your goals and so forth. So that's my recommendation.
How about you, Carlee?
I've got 2 because I can't choose one. The one that I recommend the most, and it's made probably the most impact out of all of the books I've read. So they're both in the self-help, personal development side of things. Is called the Grief Recovery Handbook. It talks about the top myths of grief. And how to actually support yourself or someone through a really challenging time. Phenomenal book. And then the second one would be Emotional Freedom by Judith Orloff. It is what I would call like the Bible of emotions and how to deal with them. It is so good. You could read it front to back. I tend to prefer to treat it like an encyclopedia or dictionary where you just flip to the page and get some insight and support in dealing with whatever challenging emotion you might be facing.
Okay. How about you, Chuck?
A couple. So I would say the 4 Agreements is a very good. To me, I think it's a great methodology in order to live your life, and it talks about the agreements that allow you to truly kind of remove yourself, take your ego out of the equation. I strongly recommend it. That's one book that I recommend everybody I talk to. Another book is Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. I remember reading that in the 90s. Yep. And I try to remind myself of those concepts because and what I love about that book and Mitch Albom in general is that he's so concise. He's got a Hemingway type of way about that says so much with so few words, and I love that. And that's also something that I think is just to be able to that is a certain skill, and just to be able to put things in perspective and context. And then finally, the book I'm reading right now is Geddy Lee's autobiography. I just got to mention what I'm reading right now. And Rush, the Power Trio, his whole story of how he came, and it's so interesting because his parents were Holocaust survivors.
Right. I've seen. You got to look at on Access. Dan Rather does an interview with Getty Lee. It's amazing.
Yeah. And it's fascinating to see, you know, his story. And, you know, I'm a huge Rush fan from back in the day, and it's just, you know, really nerdy stuff. And, you know,
I didn't take you for a prog rock guy. Now I can see Dan at the Spectrum. I mean, Chuck at the Spectrum with his ponytail and his Rush shirt going "Fly by Night." I can see that. So anyway,
1988, I was there.
Oh my God.
Good.
Junior in high school.
Final question of the day. Someone comes up to you, and they could be changing jobs. They could be getting out of high school, getting out of trade school. You know, they could just figure out what they want to do with themselves. You know. What advice do you give them? What advice do you give what they're going to look when they want to create their future or create their path? We'll start with you, Carlee. What advice do you give someone who comes up to you and looks at you as maybe a mentor type? What advice do you give them?
It's interesting because I so badly wanted to be related to the work that I do. But you know what? My advice would be, don't get student loans. Whatever you do, just like figure out what you want to do and find a way to go to college without going into debt, because financial freedom is freedom. It is freedom. So that would be my main piece of advice for someone getting out of high school, trying to figure out their path in their career.
How about you, Chuck?
I mean, I have two daughters, both in college, and I tell you, I think that there's this expectation now. It's unbelievable to me that, you know, these kids graduate and they expect that they're going to make six figures right out of college. And, you know, it is, I mean, just learn your trade and be okay. And maybe if you're not taking out as many loans as Carlee is saying, you know, work your way up and learn the business from the ground up. You know, I remember when I started in healthcare, my first job was to call up patients of sick children who just had surgery, parents of children who had just had surgery, as a collector. And it was just like, you know, it was a very difficult job, but I learned the business. I learned how insurance companies work and reimbursement and all of that, you know, just how the three-tier healthcare system works. And, but you know what? I was making, you know, $9.50 an hour when as a college graduate going to grad school. But I learned that business. I had an opportunity to make double that, but I decided to take the opportunity where they paid for my grad school and I would take like a close to minimum wage job from the ground up learning the business. And I feel so fortunate that I was able to do that. So I just tell people to like kind of lower your expectations, especially, you know, college, and, you know, take an entry level job at a firm. Maybe it's going to be a really challenging job and really hard, but you're going to be happy in the end that you really learned that business from the ground up.
Okay. How about you, Fred?
Wow, this is these are great answers. Ask questions. Don't take no for an answer. And as Carlee said too, start saving money. Just start putting money away. And if you find yourself into a situation where there's a 401k, or jump on it, match it. Because before you know it, life has gone by you, and you want to have that, you know, financial security, which brings freedom to do other things.
All right. Well, that was great. This has been great. A lot of good information today. Carlee, how can people get in touch with you?
You can find me just about everywhere at The Stress Less Co. That's The Stress Less Co.
Okay. Chuck?
That's at thefoxbrewing.com. We're on Facebook. We're also on Instagram, website, and also High Grounds Coffee Roasters. We're right in Glassboro. I'll be at either one or two. So if you want to stop by, have some great beer, you know, coffee in the morning, chances are I will be there working in the office or back in the brewery. So
ask for the Fruity Pebbles. And Fred, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'm going to say 2 spots. Am I allowed to do that?
You can say, yeah, whatever. They got to get in touch with you. It's all right.
Well, if you're interested, if here's a tagline for the food bank. If you know someone that's in need, or if yourself is in need, whoever's listening to this, You can reach out to me at fwasiak@foodbanksj.org. That's FWASIAK at foodbanksj.org. And secondly, I have 3 grandchildren under 3 that live on the West Coast, and I started a YouTube channel for them so they can watch me on television. And it's called Outdoors with Papa.
All right. See that, people? You can watch them. And, you can go to YouTube. You can watch past shows of the Coop Tank. Just search the Coop Tank. I have, there's a bunch of episodes. And actually, Joe flipped in my Mick Mars interview. Joe, we have 1,000 views of that. That's pretty cool. Also, reach out to me, thecooptank@yahoo.com. If you have any questions, if you want to see certain guests, if you want to advertise on the show. The people who are on my show are shakers and movers of the industry. And a lot of people who watch it are business people. So it's a great way to get your brand out. June 5th, Cocktails with Cooper at Splits Bar and Grill. We had 65 people there last time. It's from 4:30 to 7. The Phillies are playing, so it's $1 dogs. If you want to be a sponsor, email me at thecooptank@yahoo.com. June 13th and June 27th, Speakeasy Stand-Up, the show I host. I get some great lineup. I have Joey Callahan, who just was on his Dry Bar comedy special. That's at Soundplex Studios in Merchantville. Go to soundplexstudios.com. It's $35. You get a professional show. It's BYOB, and Soundplex is the hippest new venue in the area. So that's about it. I want to thank Joe Gangemi. If you need your podcast, hit up Joe. He's the best producer around. Email him at hello@SuiteRecording, SUITE recording.com. I'm Steve Cooper. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to all of you next time.